Hey, you. Get in. We're gonna go for a ride. My name is Abby Falvo. Welcome to Dash Jam, where the late great filmmaker and musician Jaimz Asmundson invites local artists on a sonic journey through the streets of Winnipeg. On today's episode, it's Take Your Synthesizer to Where You Used to Go to School Day. Our host is joined by guest singer, songwriter, and soul diva Alexa Dirks, also known as Begonia. Enjoy the ride. All right, Alexa. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. I was a bit nervous because I'm like, I don't know how to use these things, but it's pretty user-friendly and pretty fun.
These ones especially are pretty user-friendly. It gets more complicated. And obviously, there's a lot more things you can do with them than what we're doing, but...
Yeah, totally. I'm feeling this rhythm composer, though. Very much. Okay.
So I've never met you before.
Hi. Now I'm in your car.
This is a weird introduction. I'm sorry about that.
No, this is maybe the best introduction, actually.
Let's talk about Begonia.
All right.
Can you tell me what the genesis for that project was? Like, I mean, you had been in Shikamin?
Yes.
For like, I don't know, how long were you in part of that project?
We reached the 8-year mark and we were all just kind of going in like different directions, and it was a very amicable kind of like, you know what, I feel like we put in a lot to this band and it ran its course a bit in a way. Then I just released a single like within the year of Shikamin breaking up, and then just kind of started snowballing from there. We're gonna add a snare drum here, I think. Make it more interesting.
Yeah, well, this project seems to have completely blown up. Are you like surprised by the success of your solo project?
Well, like, yeah, you start things and you hope that like people would want to listen, but you can't just like expect people to want to listen. Mm-hmm. Like you hope for that, but you really don't know. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting journey, though. It's like some days I'm like, I'm doing so awesome. And when people see me in Winnipeg, they're like, you're doing so awesome. But like what they don't see is me in my pajamas crying in front of my computer with my bank account open, being like, what am I doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always kind of seen you like in my peripheral, like,
right.
And I just remember when this project came out, it was like you just went straight from like 0 to 60.
Yeah, the first gig that I had as Begonia was for the Jazz Fest opening for Peter, Bjorn, and John at the Burton Cummings Theater, and it was a bit of an intimidating thing, but I'm happy that I just kind of didn't think hard enough to not just jump in. It's like I could stop myself from doing so many things, but it's like that's kind of what drives me to just like go into some things blindly, because I'm like I could talk myself out of being on stage entirely because I am very anxious on the inside, but then there's that part of me that pushes through that pretty thoughtfully, so that because I always know that I feel better once I push myself out of that zone.
What do you get out of it to like if you don't want to do things and if you feel anxious about doing it?
Because I know that like I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. As cliche as that sounds, whoa, would be a sweet sample for this song right now. Oh. Oh my gosh.
Whoa, what was that?
Sorry, so distracted.
I never heard an ambulance driver yell at traffic before. Okay, so where are we going?
Okay, so where should we go? We should go to my elementary school because it's fall time. I'm getting all nostalgic. It feels like the right place to be. So that is... You're going to be turning right eventually.
Okay.
I went to Salisbury Morris Place School. And I'm going to try to remember. It's like near-ish to Concordia Hospital. Oh, Roxy Bowling Lane's a classic.
Sorry, I got distracted by the ambulance.
I did too. I definitely did. I was like trying to like poke around on this.
But what were you just saying?
I know, right? Why do you push yourself if it makes you feel? Because I feel like this is something that I was made to do in a way. This is kind of like the path that was laid down in front. This is the path that I've chosen, but also like it was kind of the inevitable path, and I feel like I'm like would be denying myself the fullest life that I could live if I just hid. I think because there's that other voice in me that's like, you know, you want to do that, you can do that, you should do that. Like there's always just that drive that kind of, it's like there's always two voices kind of talking at once. Because I know then the satisfaction, like playing those shows or doing those things that part of me is like, oh, you can't do that. Like almost like the hater inside of me is like, no, you can't do that. But I know the satisfaction and the learning that comes with actually just pushing myself out and doing it. And that's my experience. Like that's how I felt with that. So I partially grew up on this street, but we're gonna go to the energy of my childhood, which maybe I'm gonna get us lost in the process. I'm gonna get us lost. Let's slow this down a little bit.
But why don't you tell me about how you got into music?
How did I get into music? Man, my brain can't do both of these things at the same time. Like, some people are probably so good at just being like, how did I get into music? Well, it all started when I was young. This doesn't have enough range for me here. It all started when I was young. No, truly, I wanted to either like make people laugh or like be a singer. You can turn left here. Oh yeah, no, I'm smelling it. We're getting close.
You're smelling it?
I'm smelling up that we're on the right track. Meaning my brain is like, oh yeah, you remember, child? Whoa. This is the dark era of my youth. No, it wasn't that dark. I was like pretty Christian. I was actually like very much a rule follower and didn't really have any example in my life of anyone doing, like having a music career. My dad is an artist and was all throughout like my childhood. So I had an example of like an alternative lifestyle perhaps.
What does your dad do?
His name's Ray Dirks. He's a curator of a gallery in like on the CMU campus called the Mennonite Heritage Center Gallery, but he's also like a cool guy, humanitarian. He's a man for the people. He paints in watercolor but yeah, so then from a young age I was shown kind of like there's different ways of living than just the way that you go to work and come home, and but didn't really know anyone supremely musical. So we're gonna cross these lights and then turn right at the second set of lights.
Okay.
And then I think I know how to get us to my school. And it's kind of Halloween, so I feel like this is appropriate.
Yeah, it's interesting because my dad is an artist as well.
Okay, a visual artist.
Yeah, he his work's got a lot more perverted, I'd say, in the last like.
What does that mean?
Well, there's a lot of dicks in his art. He's gay, so it's.
So he loves dicks.
He does love dicks.
I have one of his dicks in my apartment, so.
If I had a dime for every time.
They're kind of like these like monster people.
Monster people dicks.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of monster people dicks.
Yeah, no kidding.
You can turn right.
Okay.
Here.
Ooh, I don't know if I can.
Yeah, no, my dad is like quite the opposite of perverse. Oh yeah, you can go straight and we'll get back eventually. If you follow that monster dick energy, then we'll be turning right eventually.
This is a very grim looking.
I know, and you know what? It is a bit of a. I don't want to throw any shade here, but this playground is very grim. I don't remember. You know, when you're a kid and you just don't. You don't know.
That you're in a prison yard?
All right, Alexa.
The windows.
So what's going on here?
Well, this is my elementary school. Well, part of it. There used to be a door here, but it looks like they closed it up and repainted it a bit of a vomit color. Reporting live. But yeah, no, it's like it is kind of the same, but I don't remember it being this depressing when I was a kid. But I guess when you're a kid, you just like see the world a bit differently. Like everything seems a bit more fantastical, I guess. I don't know, but it's like pretty depressing looking.
Can you tell me about some of the high school plays? Or was it elementary school?
Elementary school, yeah.
Musicals you were in?
Well, there was one where I was Cinderella. I lost my shoe, and I had to sing "My Shoe Will Go On" in the style of "My Heart Will Go On." It was kind of a big deal, and I still remember the performance. And I kind of like had like my first like singer's moment where I'm like, oh, my voice is a bit dry, like during that. And it was the beginning of a real career, you know.
So it was at the moment of "My Shoe Will Go On" that you realized that you wanted to be a musician?
Yeah, I think it was a bit before then. Like I remember seeing there was like this opera star. She was like a child prodigy, like Charlotte Church. Do you remember her at all?
Okay, yeah.
She's like 11, and I remember watching like this Christmas special on Christmas Eve with my family, and she was like, oh, and was like 11 years old, and I think I was a bit younger than her at the time, but I just went to bed and I cried, and I was like, I'm too old. She's already a star. She's an opera star. I'm never gonna make it. But I'm like really glad I didn't like make it when I was that old, because the music that I would have written would have been just very awful.
So were you writing music at this age?
I was, yeah, but it was very like, yeah, kind of operatic and spiritual, if you can imagine that being a genre. I was like very like, oh, I love Jesus. Like,
I feel like you could have had a big following with that music, though.
yeah, probably. They would have put like a bit of lipstick on me, taken like the glamour shots. I would have been on the front of my own record being like, I'm a spiritual baby. I feel like it took me a while to get to where I am now, but I'm happy with the time it took.
Let's get back in the car.
It's cold.
Yeah. So a lot of your like the music that you've been writing has been like about the personal things, like heartbreak and toxic relationships.
Right.
That's something that I've been kind of personally quite interested in. I feel like the easiest thing to write about is like things that are bothering me, you know, like,
oh yeah, definitely.
Like, why do you feel those kinds of experiences belong in music?
Yeah. Well, I think because some of those things, it is so personal and you feel like you're experiencing it alone. But I know how music affected me when I was growing up and things that I was going through, and how I would hear a song and how then you suddenly don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like in music, that's one thing that no one can take away from you is your own personal experience. You can try and write the perfect pop song about being in love in the club or whatever, which like, I mean, I've written songs about that, but that's because it was like a personal experience I had, you know, but it's like you can try to write stuff that has nothing to do with you, and I feel like inevitably it will never touch people in the same way, because like authenticity kind of is like the ruler of all when it comes to art, in my opinion. I am more of like on the overshare side of things, and I do that because that's just what comes natural to me. I'm just not as good at being mysterious. I think about that sometimes.
But I mean,
I wish I was better at it.
Like, does it make you feel vulnerable, like to be like opening up yourself like that, and then like having, you know, like me ask you about it, like?
Yeah, no, and that's the interesting part is that like because I write those songs and I'm writing them in such an kind of internalized, like personal place, like from an internalized personal place. And so when I'm writing them, I'm not immediately thinking about what's someone else going to think of them. Like that's part of it, but also it's like you're just trying to like purely get art out, so you kind of can't stop yourself from what you're trying to do by thinking like what's someone going to think, like right off the bat. I feel like that kind of cuts you off at the knees. It's pretty fun. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of like what
it has
you can do with it.
It has like a very like signature sound to some of it.
Yeah, right.
That you just can't get any like that. If you try opening up the decay on the bass drum all the way, it's something pretty special.
All the way, so that's to the right?
Yeah. Any parting words?
Cha-cha-cha. My parting words are, this has been fun. I need to buy this for myself so that I can just nerd out at home and really like dig in more, because I feel like I've only really scratched the surface here, and I appreciate you taking me on this journey.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.